Hey everyone, my name is Chris Vineski with Vineski Professional. Today we're going to be covering my $1,000 Shot of Espresso Personal Business Growth Seminar. Now this was based on my $1,000 cup of coffee business seminar that I did for the last 6 years, and it was a great program. It's still a great program. We do it all over the country. It has 4 basic segments of business growth that you can do, from whether you're a booth renter or a commission salon or a salon owner or whatever you want to do. The biggest question I got from the $1,000 cup of coffee was, it's a great program, Chris, but it talks about change and I'm just having a hard time doing that. So for the last couple of years, I started working on the $1,000 Shot of Espresso because it's a little bit more of a punch. It's a little more thing, you got to really sit down and figure out where you are, where you want to go, and how you want to get there. But if you don't look from the outside in, you're going to have a very hard time doing it. So we're going to cover a lot of great things that are going to kind of, those aha moments that happen for you. I just want you to write everything down, and I want you to kind of relax and enjoy yourself. Open your mind to say, hey, you know what? I'm going to try to absorb everything that Chris is going to say today, because some of it you're not going to feel comfortable with. But if you're not feeling comfortable, then you're probably trying something new, therefore you're changing. And we're going to talk about how hard it is to change, but you got to figure out where you are and how you got there to move forward. So let's start the program out, and I want to ask y'all to do something for me. Very simple. I want you to take out a pen and paper and write your name. So go ahead and write your name, but there's a catch. Do it with your non-dominant hand. Go ahead, write your name with your non-dominant hand, and let's see how that goes. All right, so how did that make you feel? A little awkward, a little nervous. I mean, I'm sure some of y'all laughed and can't even read what you wrote. But you know that feeling, that excitement feeling that you know, it was kind of like, oh, I'm nervous, I don't know how to do this, it's not going to turn out, and all these expectations that started happening. You started overthinking everything, and you were just overthinking it in your normal that you've created. So when I talk about that, is I want you to feel a little bit uncomfortable during this seminar, because it's for you. This seminar is just for me to share some ideas that help me and help my staff through the years to become something they never thought they could before. So another thing I want you to do is, with that same paper and pen, I want you to go ahead and draw a layered bob. So just draw in your mind what you think a layered bob looks like. Go ahead. All right, so once you got that completed, now right next to it, draw another layered bob, but make it look different. All right, so now as I look around, does the one layered bob look different from the other? 9 times out of 10, probably not. Maybe the length is a little bit different and everything. So we're going to open your mind to a whole new way of thinking with Vineski Professional, through cutting, through education, through our products. Everything that we have is going to start making you think differently, because our industry, we've been doing the same thing way too long. I mean, I've been doing hair for 28 years, and I've been an assistant, I've been a booth renter, I've owned booth rental salons, I've been a commission stylist, I've owned commission salons, I've worked with distributors, I've been a director of education. It's just been a whole journey, but through that journey, I have noticed that I needed to really grab hold of some specific people to help me learn as I grow and make the right decisions at the right time. I heard a great guy, a good friend of mine, told me one time, says, pioneers make all the money, and timing is everything. Well, I think what he forgot to tell me is pioneers take all the arrows too. But you got to go through some of those times to grow. And I think a lot of times we just think that we're comfortable, we've built this little shield around us, and we don't want to rock the boat too much. Well, if you don't rock the boat, you're never going to sail forward. I will promise you that. So let's go ahead and get into the program, and I'm going to ask you some direct questions. And remember, my intention is not to make you get upset over anything. We're just going to be very direct and get down to the nuts and bolts of why change needs to happen, how it needs to happen, and how direct you need to be and honest with yourself in order to move in that direction. So let's go ahead and start with the first slide. I'm going to ask you this question, and I want you to answer it on a piece of paper that you have in front of you. What is your purpose? So if I just came up and someone asked you in the middle of your hair day, what's your purpose? What would you say? Go ahead and write that down. Now, if someone asks me what my purpose is, my goal purpose is for every day I wake up and I take my first breath, I know that I have another chance to impact people's lives. I'm like, right, thank you, God, I got another day to impact people's lives. And that's what I like to do. I think that's what my purpose is. That's what I'm put here for. It's what I love to do. And I love sharing ideas with everybody. And I love everybody to share ideas with me because that's how we grow. I always say there's not a hairdresser here, there's not one here. We all do the same junk, but we all deal with different circumstances and situations. And that's how we need to be humble enough to learn from one another and move forward. So what is your purpose? And if you don't have one, we'll get to it. So the next thing I want to ask you to do is to evaluate yourself. So on a scale from 1 to 10, I want you to rate yourself, 1 being the lowest, 10 being the highest. How would you evaluate yourself in your excitement level? How excited are you? From 1 to 10, am I kind of excited? Am I 5? Am I real excited? And be honest with yourself. And then how excited are you in your professional environment? And how excited are you in your personal environment? So I want you to go ahead and write 3 different numbers down, and I want you to kind of check yourself. Now, if you're with a friend watching this or whatever, don't talk to one another. Just kind of do this is for you. This is just for you, not for your friends. Because I feel that if you ask your friend how excited you are, you might hear something that you don't like. So I do this all the time with my staff is, if I put an excitement level and they have their self as a 8 on the excitement level 1 to 10, and I have them rated as a 2, there's a big disconnect. And the reason you think you're an 8 and you're a 2 because you are living in your normal that you created and you think everything's just dandy. And we're going to talk about that. We're going to talk about why we do things without really thinking about them. Now if I ask you, do you feel good about where you are? This is very important. So we're going to talk about, is this where you think you should be? Is this the pinnacle? Is this where you think this is the top of my game? This is where I'm going to end up? Or am I halfway there? Or am I 80% there? Where are you with this? So is it a good thing or is it a bad thing? Certain choices define to get you where you are right now. So is this where you thought you would be? And just answer yes or no. I got an industry, and we're going to go over that in just a few minutes, but I got an industry kind of blindly. It wasn't like I played with, Barbie's hair growing up. I never thought about doing hair at all. I was Ken with the scuba gear and in the pool and doing all that kind of stuff back in the day, and he had a shaved head. So maybe I could taper it for him or something back then, I don't know. But that's kind of, is this where you thought you would be? So 10 years ago, this is what you planned. 5 years ago, this is where you plan to be. 1 year ago, this is where you plan to be. Is it where you're supposed to be? And the reason I'm asking all these questions is because I'm trying for you to get a hold of exactly where you are and why you're there. Because it's very important to understand that, because if you don't get that part of it, you can't move forward. So I'm going to talk about road mapping, and you've heard people say this or do it in a seminar and everything. You have to be able to create a road map to understand how you ended up where you are. So let's talk about my roadmap just a little bit here. Okay, so I'm going to start back when I was 13. I was 13. I ran. I played sports. I was ranked third in the country in a half marathon. Did that. You know, had a not a healthy family environment. So I moved out on my own when I was 16, and went through school. Did all that. I started managing sporting goods stores and doing this, and my older sister's a hairdresser, and she said, Chris, why don't you help me manage a hair salon, because you manage sporting goods stores. And I said, well, why not? I'll give it a go. And then here's the kicker. She's like, well, why don't you go to beauty school, and just in case we get busy. Again, I said, I did not play with Barbie's hair growing up. I don't do hair. Never wanted to, never thought about it. But I was her guinea pig growing up. She put the highlights in there and the perms and all that. It was very comical. So she taught me into going to beauty school. Now I'm going to tell you, I went to hair. I call it beauty school because I'm that old. That's what I don't know what y'all call it now, but I still call it beauty school. It wasn't a bad deal. I was the only guy in beauty school with all these women, and I had a great time. Really, really good time. And so I went through beauty school. When I got out, I'm from Charleston, South Carolina, and Hurricane Hugo hit, ruined the building. My sister was going to open this salon, and so I'm stuck there with a cosmetology license. And so I said, well, you know what, I'll give it a go. So I assisted at one of the largest salons in Charleston, downtown, and I did it for 2 years. That's when foil highlighting just started, and we started learning how to do that. So I went in, I did hair, and I left. I went in, I did hair, and I left. I went in and did hair, and I left. And I'm just like, is this it? Is this where I'm supposed to be at 19 or 20 years old? And I was sitting in my apartment with a good friend of mine, my roommate, and a Marine Corps commercial came on, and I like challenges. And we looked at each other. We saw the Marine Corps. We was like, man, that's pretty cool. And I'm like, yeah, that's real manly. I've been cutting hair for a little while. Let's go try that. So we went into Marine Corps and just for boot camp, and I ended up being a marksmanship instructor at Parris Island in there, and that was a life-changing experience in more ways than one, because when you go into the Marines, they tear you down, break you down mentally and physically, and then rebuild you the way they want you to do it. They got it down to a fine art. I mean, they literally, when you get out of boot camp, you are not the same person as you went in. And that really made sense to me, because that was a very changing point in my life, the way I looked at everything, and looked at, there's nothing I can't accomplish, but I do know in order to accomplish it, I have to change my way of thinking, my way of doing things, physically, mentally, whatever it takes, I have to do that. So like I said, I was a marksmanship instructor at Parris Island, and if I can't teach you how to do anything, I can teach you how to hit someone in the head from about 500 yards out. So if you need that training, I can give that to you also. But it really was. I met some great guys I'm still really good friends with. But when I got out of the Marine Corps, I only did 4 years, and I got out and I'm like, okay, so I have anything that I want to do, I can do anything. And you know how you really want something so bad, and you're like, I am destined to do this. So this part of my roadmap was interesting, because I got out of the Marine Corps and I said, I want to be a police officer. I said, I trained 300 shooters. I trained the SWAT teams, the Army Rangers, everybody. I said, I'm going to go be a police officer, because I really like the firearm side of things and doing this. So I applied. I went through all the testing. I was like the top 2 or 3, physical, the written test. It was written back then. And then we got to the final last interview, and I got a letter in there, and she, Captain Smiley, I remember her name, she said, you can no longer, proceed in the hiring process. And that was like someone just took all the air out of my balloon, so to speak. I mean, I just was like, are you kidding me? So I called her. I called her. I said, Captain Smiley, I got this letter. I said, I'm just curious, why in the world, if I'm good enough to teach the best shooters in the world, how I can't be a police officer? And she said, well, it was down to a couple of you, and I got a ticket for passing someone without using my blinker. And I said, really? That's what it took? So I was just crushed. So I did some odd end jobs after that, but I was so mad and so brokenhearted, so to speak, that I knew that that was my destiny. And it just didn't happen. So I did some other jobs, and it took me a good year to really get over it. And so when I got over it, I said, okay, Chris, now what are we going to do? And I said, this hair thing was not bad, but I just got to own my own salon. So I partnered up with my sister again. We opened up a little place in the back of a dress shop. Ironically, the dress shop was called My Sister's Closet, and me and my sister did hair in the back of it. We did that for about a year, and then we opened up our own salon. It was a booth rental salon. And then we went to a commission-based salon, and from a 4-chair to an 8-chair, and just doing really enjoying success, understanding how to deal with employees, and doing a team effort, and did that for a good while. And then it came to a point where I was offered a job as a director of education for a distributor. Now, that was pretty interesting to me. I said, I would do that. They don't have an education department, so they asked me to go ahead and start one for them. And so I went ahead and did that. I left the salon, and I did that for 10 years. And for 10 years, I got to meet a lot of manufacturers, a lot of international artists, a lot of other distributors. I got to travel. I got to teach for many, many different manufacturers, and really enjoyed everything. But then I got to a point to where it was like, okay, now we built this education program and the facility, and brought in a great team of people to do it. I got to a point where, okay, now where do I go? Have y'all ever been there? Have you ever been in your life and just said, okay, what's next? Have you ever thought about that? So that's where I was. And so I talked to some of my staff and asked them if they would be a part of what I want to do. So I said, okay, now I'm going to go ahead. I'm at the age where let's go ahead and finish this industry off. I've done everything. So I opened up a 5,000 square foot salon. I opened up a cosmetology school, that's a whole different seminar on that one. That was interesting. And now I'm doing manufacturing. And who knows, maybe a little distribution, who knows? Well, we never know where we're going to be, but you always have to have options. So my first thing was to open a salon, and we did. We did it in a retail environment, which I've never thought I would do, in a mall in Charleston, South Carolina. And it's so exciting being here right now because it just got purchased by a guy named Richard Davis. I can't wait to see what he does with it. I'm really excited about that. And then we opened a school right next to it. And now we're doing manufacturing, and it's just the journey that you go on. But I tell you, through that whole journey, I really grabbed hold of certain people in my life that I could go and ask these very important financial questions. How do I do this? How do I do that? And then journey with them through there. So that's kind of my roadmap to get me to where I was right now. Now, let's talk about what normal did I create? So during all that, whose fault was it that I quit running and lost all my scholarships to anywhere in the country? Whose fault was that? I could blame family. I could blame, a lot of different things, but it was my fault, right? Okay, so whose fault was it that I did not get on the police department? I could blame, the captain, I could blame the interviewers, I could blame a lot of people, but bottom line is, I got a ticket, when I shouldn't have. So I was at fault. And then you look at the Marine Corps, and, one of the biggest things in the Marine Corps, why did I go in? Because I was bored. You ever been bored? I always have this funny saying, if you're bored, you're boring, and nobody wants to be around you. And that's kind of where I was, and I do not like being bored, but it is a comfort zone for most of us. So we really need to understand, what is our comfort zone and what choices have we made to get us to where we're going now. So I got out of the Marine Corps, decided to get out. They wanted me to stay in. No, it was a choice that I made. And then open up a salon. That was a choice I made too. Did I need a 8,000 square foot facility to do all this with me? Absolutely not. But, I talked to certain people. They recommended it, and we just kind of enjoyed it. But so when you talk about what normal did I create, each choice defined me. And I realized that when things didn't go right, I was at fault. I was the problem. And I think so many times we go through life and we just really don't acknowledge that, hey, you know what? maybe it was me. Maybe I was the problem that this happened to me, and to move forward and to play around with things. But you got to have, key people to do life with. And I tell you, it's been one heck of a journey, and I'm still journeying. And I'm going to journey with hairdressers because I love hairdressers. They're the most honest, the most heartfelt people that I've ever met. And I've worked a lot of different industries. I've done plumbing. I've installed fireplaces. I installed gas water heaters for electric companies, switching them out up under there. I mean, I've done a lot of different things, but it's kind of nice to really take everything and just kind of narrow it down and then get really focused on your vision and where you want to go. But I'm telling you, it's hard getting to that point. It's even harder to go further with it. So it's a lot of fun, but I want y'all to understand we're getting ready to talk about what's holding you back and why that's important. Because what roadmap have you created? Before we talk about the roadmap that you created, I asked a question one time. I said, what's holding me back? And let's talk about self-deception, a bad attitude, or bad choices. Has anybody made a bad choice? Have you made a bad choice in your life? Absolutely. If you haven't, good for you. But really, let's talk about self-deception, because I tell you, I read a book called Leadership and Self-Deception by the Arbinger Institute. It changed my life. My staff, they know I talk about it all the time. It says, so why, do I look at things where I'm not looking at it from the outside in? So why did I stop running? Is it someone else's fault? They did me wrong. They were mean to me. All these kind of things. We kind of make excuses for why we made a choice. And self-deception is very interesting because it's your way of looking at stuff in the normal that you created. So let's talk about, bad attitude. I rejected authority. I can do it on my own. I don't need a mentor. I don't need guidance. I got this. I hear that all the time. When I'm giving people advice, they come to me or call me or Facebook me or whatever you do, and they say, oh, I need help and I got this question. When I start giving them some information, they're like, oh yeah, I do that. Oh yeah, I've done that. Oh yeah. And I don't think you have, because if you did, I think you would actually be a little more understanding of what it takes to grow. Let's talk about my choices and the changes, the changes of jobs, hung out with the wrong crowd, put myself in problematic situations, and what held me back is me. So with saying all that, what is important to you? So this program, I want you to understand, is about change. It's about change, but if you don't want to change, or you haven't decided that that's a good thing for you, this program probably will not work for you, because most people say, yeah, I want to change, and change never happens. So let's move forward with, what does your roadmap look like? What got you to the present? What got you to where you are right now? So you can start anywhere. You can start when you're a teenager. You can start, wherever. Elementary school, high school, college, second job, third job, fourth job, whatever. But try to focus on those pivotal moments in your life where you made a decision and that led you to where you are now. Whether it was a step forward, a step sideways, or a step back, it doesn't matter. But take a little bit of time and go ahead and just jot some things down. And please, don't look at each other's paper if you're with other hairdressers. Just enjoy this moment. Really think about it and take about 10 or 15 minutes to go ahead and do that. But your roadmap, what does it look like? And it could be bullet points, just those pivotal moments that you can definitely decide that changed me to who I am. So now that you wrote down your roadmap to where you are now, what normal have you created? At this time, write down what normal have you created. And what I mean by that is to understand your temperament, what friends are you hanging out with, what language, your job, your home, Are you loud? Are you quiet? Your daily routine? All these things come into play. And I'm going to tell you, there's two things that are very important to me. Who you do life with, your friends, and are they feeding you? Are they taking stuff away from you? That you really have to decide that. I'm not saying you get rid of any of your friends, but you really need to understand who you're journeying through life with. And that's very important, who you work with, who you hang out with outside of work. And another thing that's when you talk about what normal you created, it's very interesting to me is most of us don't see that we have a problem. And I'm going to use an example. I got a good friend of mine that just uses a lot of language, bad language, and doesn't think twice about it, no matter where he's at, if there's kids around, anything like that. Now that to me blows me away. I'm like, shh, because but that person, they have done it for so long. They have just went through this so long, they don't see anything wrong with it. And the people they hung out with don't see anything wrong with it. And I think I'm probably the only person, in his life that will say anything to him, because I'm like, don't do that around me. I do not like bad words. And people that, if you want to say bad words, you're more than welcome to. I just say it's a little bit of self-discipline to make sure that you appeal to everybody. And that's the way I do it. It's just a personal thing to me. But most of us don't understand that we have a problem. It's very important. What gets you aggravated or what inspires you? These are all things that are very, very, very important to realize that, maybe I'm not doing what I should be doing. Okay, and certainly you do not think you are the problem. This is most people. I'm not just saying you in general. I'm just saying everybody in general they really don't understand that, hey, I'm the problem of maybe I'm hot-headed in traffic. People drive crazy and I just go crazy. Maybe, the kids just set me off from time to time. Maybe I'm watching a show or a sporting event and I get up and crazy. I get season tickets to the Carolina games, and it amazes me how loud and people are standing up screaming and using profanity and doing all this just right there with everybody around. It just amazes me. I'm like, really? But they honestly don't think they have a problem. And in their world, they may not. So this is the biggest part of the program. Do you know anybody, this is a good one, do you know anybody that's weird? Do you know, has anybody ever said anything that you're like, why did they just say that? Is anybody ever? So I love this, because when I asked, a pastor is my client, and he has a degree in psychology, and I just asked him one time, I said, why are people weird? He chuckles at me. He said, Chris, for one, you're the only one to ask me these type of questions. I said, I'm just wondering. I said, because if I'm weird, tell me I'm weird, and I'll try not to be weird. I don't want to be thought as the weird person running around. You got a friend right now that you know of that's weird, and everybody thinks they're weird, but they're still hanging out and still acting the same way and doing the same stuff. So what he said, I said, well, why did they get that? Or how do we get like that? And he said, because they created a normal. So through life, you make certain decisions and certain choices, and those choices start duplicating themselves and remaining the same. So maybe you made a bad choice. Well, that bad choice led into another bad choice, and that bad choice is not a bad choice anymore. It became your normal way of thinking. Therefore, you're just tunnel vision and not worried about anything else other than how it affects you and what you want to say right then, right now. And people like that. And I like to be held accountable. If I'm like that, I know I got my girls around me that definitely will tell me, Chris, did you really just say that? And I will try not to. I don't want to offend anybody by anything, but I don't want to be the weird person. I don't want to be the weird person. Everybody's going, man, he is so weird. And once you've created the normal, now here's a really interesting thing. Once you've created that normal, when you react to a situation verbally, you don't think about it anymore. You've created a normal way of responding and reacting to certain situations that it's automatic, that you just do it and you stop thinking about how you react to situations. or maybe it's what you say or your body motions or whatever. So hear me what I'm saying now. It's very important. So do you know people that react to certain situations? If someone pulls out in front of you and you slow down and you get mad at that person, how do you respond? And you probably respond the same way. But now you're responding without thinking about it anymore. And I don't know why I'm using, car situations, but I'm just saying in general, if your son scores a goal in soccer, you react a certain way. I remember, my wife saying, "Why don't you get excited when he scores the goal?" I said, "Well, that's kind of what he's supposed to score the goal. I clap, but I don't need to be the one to woohoo, jumping up and down and going crazy and everybody looking at me. I'm not that guy." So I thought about it. Do I get excited? Absolutely. I stand up, "Yay, way to go, Hunter," or whatever, but I'm not the loud person. Do y'all know the loud people? Do y'all know the people that don't care who's around them and what they say and why they say it? Now here, what if you went up to them and say, "Hey, you know what? Could you maybe not use profanity around all the 10-year-old kids?" What do you think they would say to you? They'd get mad at you because how dare you think that that's wrong, because that's what they've been doing their whole life. And maybe how they were raised or who they hung out with and made it feel as a comfortable situation. So now we have to understand you have created a roadmap to make you are who you are now. The way you think, the way you act, professionally, personally. And if you read that book, Leadership and Self-Deception, it's really an amazing book, because it basically, for example, they give an example in the book. It says, have you ever been in an elevator and the elevator door's closing, but you see someone coming to the elevator, you don't hit the open button, you just kind of don't look at them, you look away because you think you should be in that elevator by yourself. They don't need to ride with you, especially if they got 3 pieces of luggage and they're going to, cram everything in there. That's probably happened. Or another example is that this guy was on an airplane, and it's one of the seat yourself airplanes, and people are coming down, and he put his newspaper on the seat next to him so people would think somebody's sitting there. So at what point do you think it's okay for everybody to be sitting like this on an airplane except you? Again, that's just another example of self-deception, and it's one of the most fascinating things to me. So now that's all I think about when I'm in a crowd or I'm watching people do what they do, is really understanding they have no idea looking through my eyes at them right now. No idea. And if they did, they might be surprised. Or if they're in a normal that they create and don't want to change, then that's the way they'll be the rest of their life. Okay, so let's move forward a little bit. So have you ever wanted to change but couldn't or wouldn't? Have you ever wanted to change but didn't or couldn't? It doesn't matter. This happens all the time. Have you ever made a New Year's resolution? Hey, you know what? I'm going to start exercising January 1. Hungover and all. January 1, I'm going to start exercising. And you started exercising and it lasted a month or 2 months or 3 months. So why did it stop? This is one of the best examples that I can use. Have you ever wanted to do more in your industry and you didn't know how to, or it would make you feel uncomfortable? That's a great question. I think that happens a lot in our industry. Do I want to be a booth renter, or do I want to be a commission stylist? Do I want to work with a manufacturer, or do I want to work with a big team of people? So why don't we try to change? The mystery of the unknown scares the daylights out of us. So if you change jobs or change salon or whatever, especially if you've been in it a while, man, it is scary to not know what's going to be happening tomorrow. But you have to know that it's going to be uncomfortable, or you're never going to grow in the industry. So I think a lot of people just go through life and say, let me ask you this. How many of your clients sits in your chair and say, I love my job. I love my job? Very few. I'm a hairdresser just like you. I deal with clients all day, and I've never had anyone come up there and say, I'm not excited. If you're not excited going to work, then don't go. Go work at the DMV. I've been saying that for years. I have not met one person that works at the DMV that's excited about their job. Just haven't been there. Maybe you know someone, and that might be okay in your state. I don't know, but I know in South Carolina, it's not true. So why don't we change? If you're not happy, why don't you change? And I hear, well, I can't change because financially I have to do this. Let me explain something to you. I have lived in a single wide trailer, is that what they call those things? I've lived in a duplex where the guy on the other side of the duplex was a crabber and had his crab traps all outside. I've had no furniture. It doesn't matter. You can always make money. But the one thing that before looking at making money, the one thing you really need to look at is, are you excited? And everybody says passion, and I think that's overrated. You got to have passion. Passion to me is the goosebumps of excitement. Like every day I walk in the back of the salon, I just take a deep breath, exhale slowly, and I say, okay, I'm not Chris the dad or Chris the husband or Chris the Harley Davidson motorcycle. I love me some Harley Davidsons. If you get to know me more on Facebook, you'll see that. But so I'm not that. I'm Chris the hairdresser for the whole time I'm in there. But you know, when I do that, I get excited about being that and impacting my clients' lives. Every day they wake up, they think about you. You're going to decide whether they have a good day leaving the house or a bad day. So if they can do their hair and they can reproduce what you do behind a chair, then you are golden. They're going to always think about you. They're always going to get compliments. They're always going to give you referrals. That's what makes our industry go around. So have you ever wanted to change and couldn't? Most of us are living in a village that we created. And I agree with this statement because it really means you have put a shelter and surrounded yourself by normal so you don't feel uncomfortable. So it's very important to see that you have built this village around you. It's your comfort zone. And if you're in that comfort zone, how do you get out? And the bigger you build it and the stronger you build it, the harder it is to move forward. Or you ever have anybody says, hey, I want to make more. Here's a good one. New hairdresser starts at your salon. Now you're the rock star. You've been doing it. You got a built clientele. You're double booking. You're making a load of money. And a new hairdresser starts. And they're in the back room, in the break room, reading a People magazine. Now, I would go back there and say, what is it in that People magazine that's going to help you become more successful? Because I don't understand. There's so many amazing hairdressers in every salon across, worldwide. And I don't understand how the new ones don't come in and be humble enough. Like, if I don't know how to build a clientele, I need to hang out with someone that knows how to build a clientele. If I don't know how to sell support material, and that's what I call your retail, to support the style you gave the client, if I don't know how to do that, then I need to hang out with someone and be somebody I'm not to be successful and to grow into. Now, let me explain, be somebody you're not. I'm going to be honest with you, and I don't know if I should say this right now at all, but I'm going to tell you something personal about me. I don't like people. I don't like being around crowds. I don't like being intertwined. I don't like people talking to me. But I tell you, when I'm a hairdresser, when I am doing hair, that's a whole different kind of Chris. And I'm not saying be fake all the time, but you kind of got to fake it till you make it. And I remember I had this guy work for me years ago, came out and he says, Chris, do you mind if I can tell some of your stories because I'm so new, I don't really have any stories. So in the salon, my clients could hear him telling my stories that they knew were mine. And then they said, is he really telling your stories? I know, isn't that funny? I tell you, the guy built a clientele in 1 year. It was absolutely amazing, but he was doing something that wasn't normal to him. And I don't understand why hairdressers don't understand to be humble and to share with one another, with people in the salon, say, hey, help me talk better, help me do a better haircut, help me do better color, please help me. Because if you just sit back in the break room reading a magazine, I promise you, you're never going to be successful. I mean, you may make a little bit of money, but you're never going to be successful. So if there's only 150 people it takes for you to have a good clientele, how many people walk past your salon a day? How many people are in the mall? How many people are shopping in a store? How many people go to the grocery store? Look here, you better be a hairdresser 24/7. It is vital to you to talk about hair. I had a girl tell me one time, well, Chris, I don't talk about hair after 5 o'clock. I'm tired of it. I'm done. And I said, well, that's awesome because, for one, I don't know why you get off at 5. That's not a normal hairdresser. I said, but when you get off, I'm going to steal every one of your clients after 5 o'clock because I need more clients. I tell my clients still to this day, look here, I need you to send me some people. I'm dying. I can't make my mortgage payment. I need another Harley Davidson next year. I need you to send me some people. And they laugh and cut up, but they send me some people. I get more referrals than anybody. And that's why I'm always evolving, because I can charge more prices. I'm getting new clients. I can keep raising and journeying in my financial standings. So whether it's people, location, job, you got to have a feel-good place, but that feel-good place isn't what you build. It's what other people help you build. So get rid of the village, push that comfort zone out of the way, and be uncomfortable. You remember the first haircut that you did? The first haircut that you did, you remember that feeling you had inside you? You know that feeling? You should always have a little bit of that feeling inside you every client that you do. And always remember where you started, because if you don't know where you started and where you're at, you can't move forward. You got to have that feeling. And when I talk about cutting, I love when you cut your finger. You know, when you cut your finger, that hot sensation that comes over you. So y'all know I'm a hairdresser now because y'all know it's true. It's like, oh my God. And then we sit there and watch, like we think it's not going to bleed. It's not going to bleed, but I'm going to sit there and watch it because it's not going to bleed. But you know that the sensation that comes over you, it's okay because you probably were trying something new or you weren't paying attention, one or the other, and you cut your finger, and that's okay. Wrap it up and move forward. These things are vital for you to grow. So our normal way of doing, thinking, and acting. What is our normal way of doing, thinking, and acting? And I hope you're taking notes, during this whole program, but this is a very important part to understand. Is the village is our normal way of doing, thinking, and acting. And I promise you this, if you do, think, and act the way you did 5 years ago, you're going to make the same amount of money you made 5 years ago. That's just the way it is. And I just don't understand. It's so easy. It's so easy to give a different experience at every level and to grow your clientele. And you just got to understand, you got to do things that you don't normally do. Just with cutting hair. I mean, I never start my haircut with the length first. Ever. I don't know where I'm going to start it. Every time my client comes in, the client comes in and says, I want exactly what you gave me last time. Look here, sister. I don't even know your name, let alone how I cut your hair last time. I know you have that feeling and you say that to you. And our new cutting system is going to help you duplicate that too, but that's another class. So, but I want you to understand that you have to evolve and you have to change things. If your clients go through the same routine, if you cut the length first and then you decide to cut her bang first and she notices you've been doing the same thing way too long. Get out of your normal way of doing, thinking, and acting. So I'm going to get ready to tell you something, and this is probably, when I read this in the book, and I can't remember which one it was, but this is going to speak volume to it. The definition of death is when the body stops changing. So are you alive, or are you growing, or not? And I know that's kind of in your face and kind of strong, but when I read that, I said, man, isn't that so true? Isn't that so true? The definition of death is when the body starts changing. So basically, do you want to live life, or do you want to go through life? Do you want to reach everything that's at your fingertips, or do you want to stay comfortable and stay complaining and do things you've always done? So these things are very important. I tell you, I really laugh. So am I truly growing? Every day I wake up, I have to have a dream. I have to know where I'm going and what I'm doing. So am I truly growing? What represents the truth to these answers? Okay, so do you want to change? Do you really want to change and really change? This is a question that you need to ask right now. I say it's the $100,000 question because you can make $100,000 as a hairdresser, but there's only 2% that do it, and those 2% aren't better than you. They just give a different experience and have grown and changed and reached a certain level, and that's kind of how they got there. Do you really want to? That's the question that you have to ask yourself, but more importantly, you have to answer yourself. In order to change, you have to be epic, get this, every day. Not once a week, not once a month. You have to be epic. I love the word epic because that really just, overexceeds everybody's expectations. And what I mean by epic is when you walk through the front door, you are 110% and getting the goosebumps and excited to be there and excited to hang out with your work friends and all this fun stuff and deal with your clients and have fun with them and impact their lives. When I say epic, that's what you need to do. You have to overexceed everyone's expectations, including your own, every day. To be epic, you have to realize, hear me, you have to realize the monster that you have created. You have to be somebody you're not in order to grow. Do we understand that? And please don't take that the wrong way. And I say the monster because I heard that somewhere, and I said that makes a lot of sense because the monster, what I call a monster, is the normal that I have created. And I tell you what, it is a monster because it's hard to get away from, it's hard to get rid of, it's hard to not think about. These are very, very important, but you have to wake up with a purpose every day. Do we realize there's somebody we want to be? Do you know who you want to be or where you want to be? Is every day celebrated and treated like the most important day of your life? And I say every day should be like as important as a wedding, every day. When you wake up and take a breath, man, that's a big day. That is a day that you can go and impact people's lives. I tell you, when I do that, I say, ooh, thank you. I'm excited. I listen to the same songs every morning when I'm getting ready or I'm on my way to work. I have my quiet time. I got to prepare myself mentally and physically every day that I get up. And it's very important to me. My wife laughs at me. She's like, really, those same 5 songs every morning? I love it. They get me going. And they're just things that are inspirational to me that I need. I need help to get going every day. Are you 110% every day you get up? No. Do we all have junk? Absolutely, we all got junk. But it's how you deal with it and how you can turn it on and off. You got to turn it off, go impact lives, come back on, turn it back on, deal with it, okay? The people at work don't need to deal with your junk, okay? And I hope you don't mind me saying junk because that's what I think it is. Acknowledge the spirit, not the academics. I love that saying. Acknowledge the spirit. The spirit's in here. This is what you want to do. This is a heartfelt decision. I want to change. I want to be this. I want this. So many times we let this crazy thing up in our head get in the way of everything. We start thinking too much. Oh, well, is it going to do this? Is it going to do that? Well, what if it doesn't turn out? What if it does? Who am I going to do? What if that fails? Where am I going to be? Stop all that. Understand it. Look here, this is what I want to do and be from here. Once you understand the spirit of everything, man, let me tell you what, everything else is easy. You just got to start heading in that direction. I promise you, heading in a direction, have the right people around you, you will succeed. Are you going to have bumps in the road? Absolutely. But if you got the right people around you, the right attitude and the right mindset and the right vision, you'll get through anything. I promise you that. Don't overcomplicate your road. You have to feel the vision inside you, the excitement, the passion. Like I said before, like the first haircut you did, that feeling's a good thing. I was so nervous the first time I did a haircut. I still remember it. I wasn't in beauty school because we were drinking and we were in my apartment and I cut my roommate's hair and I think it was probably the best haircut I ever did. So I don't know what that says about me, but I remember it like it was yesterday. And I remember the excitement I had in me and what I want to do and how I did and how I created that shape on his haircut. And this was back in the 80s, so we had some bigger hair back then. So it was a lot of fun to me. Always remember that. Remember that life has no timeouts, no do-overs, and the clock is always running. And the reason I say that is, look here, I don't care what mistakes you made. I don't care how bad of a day you had today, because once the day's over, you got to forget about it. It's over. You can't change it. You can't bring it back. You start the next day going at it 110%. You always have to be moving, so don't let shortfalls hold you up. And I think, we always, that guilt thing or that shame thing, all that, you got to let that stuff go. It's not going to do you any good in growth. You got to learn, and this is a funny saying, you got to learn to bob and weave through everything. I got to duck this, do this way, whatever you got to do, that's what you got to do to dodge all this stuff and get through it. And do not think about it day after day after day. Why did I do this? Why did that happen? Who cares? Every day is a gift. Enjoy the gift and move forward. So live every day as the biggest day of your life. We talked about that briefly, but you got to celebrate every morning an accomplishment and purpose that you have every day. So your purpose every day should be the same. And you need to reevaluate how you did that day. And that's accountability, and we'll talk briefly about that in the future. But you have to understand that I had a purpose. I went in. This is what I did good. This is what I did bad. You reevaluate it. You throw it away, and then you move forward. So we're going to talk about 6 steps to actually do the change here. But you first got to know that every day you wake up is a big day. Whether it's a wedding day, whatever it is, it's the biggest day of your life. Now, in order for change to happen, I'm going to tell you, you have to be chaotic. It's one of my favorite words. One of the girls on my team, April, she uses that. She does chaotic balayage. It's the coolest looking thing. But you have to have chaos in order to move forward. So the chaos is the uncomfortable, which no one likes. The order is the structure and accountability that you have to put on yourself in order to follow through with the change. This is so vital, important. That feeling of not knowing must be present. Accountability must be in place. This is an awful feeling for most people, but I promise you, you are still on board and you're still driving forward. So now that you want to change, you've figured everything out, you know where you're at, you know where you want to go, you know your roadmap, you know that every day has to be epic. How do you do it? This is the biggest question I've gotten over the last several years, and this is what I've come up with. It's very important to me is there's 6 steps to change. You have to acknowledge first, do I want to change? And then you have to plan. What is it going to take to implement the change? It's very important. Now, team, you have to be around the right people. That's not rocket science. You have to be around the right people. Who will it take to surround myself with in order for change to happen and hold me accountable? Okay, so now you take the team and then you have to execute. So now you acknowledged it, you got a plan for it, you got the right people around you. Now you have to execute your plan. Very important. In what order does all this need to happen? Okay, do I need to start talking to my clients different? Do I need to start getting more information? Do I need more education? Do I need someone to watch me? Do I need to video myself, record myself? All these things. So you have to execute the plan, and everybody's going to do it differently, but you have to do it in your way, the way you feel comfortable with doing, as far as whether it's a voice recording, a video recording, or someone listening to you, or you writing down notes after each client, what went good, what went bad. And I promise you this, if you ever record yourself with your client, hide the recorder, just go home and listen to your recording at the end of the day and close your eyes and say, how did I sound? I think you'll be surprised that you probably were not even close to being 80% effective. Okay? We're not just hanging out. We're here to do a job. We're here to do life. Go ahead and make it personable and effective. So once you execute the plan, you have to track your growth. Now this can be done in a lot of different ways. A lot of different ways you can do this. Am I heading in the right direction? How often do I need this kind of education? How often do I need to do this with this highlight client? Do I want to change their color? Do I want to change their haircut? How often do I offer these suggestions? These are so vital and important, but you better track it, because I had a hairdresser come to me and said, Chris, I am not making near as much money as I am today as I was 5 years ago. I said, well, how much money are you making? Now, how much money did you make up to this point 5 years ago? Well, I don't know. Well, if you don't know, how do you know you're not making enough? Maybe you're spending more. Maybe you're getting more cash and you're blowing it. I don't know. You have to have it on paper how to track and hold yourself. What? The next 6th step is accountability. This is probably your very most important one. You have to visually see where you're going, how you got there, and what happened. Every time. This is the vital, vital point of this. So the 6 steps to change: acknowledge, plan, team, execute, track, and accountability. You have to understand you have to have a list of these things. And you know, we're going to talk. Let me talk briefly about this too, because one of the things that I always recommend, and I think is very important, to start off easy. So wake up in the morning and write down, what are some things I want to do today? I want to smile more. I want to ask my client to send me more business. I want to sell more support material. I just want to be happy. I want to hug everybody in the salon. Whatever it is, jot those things down. Go through your day, and just normal, you can look back at your list if you want. I don't recommend it. Go back through the day. You get home, you're winding down, you get in bed. Right before you go to sleep, look at that list and say, oh, I did that, I didn't do that, didn't do that, didn't do that. And then once you evaluate it, take that list, crumble it up, throw it away, because that day is gone. Very important. Next day you wake up, whatever pops in your head, I want to do this, 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 and this today. Evaluate it at the end of the day, do the same thing. And I promise you, you'll start having the same things on that list. And if you start doing the same things, you know, in so many times, what happens? It becomes your habit and the new you. Very, very, very important to do that. And that's very easy. I do that. I used to do it with a piece of paper. Now I do it on my phone, on my notes app. So it helps me a lot. So formulation for success is the ritual. So what do I mean by that? Morning. Write that list, okay? So the list that we just talked about is your ritual. You have to get in a habit of holding yourself accountable. And I think this is the easiest way. So if you do your list every morning and then evaluate every night, and then you have to do something weekly. So weekly, you got to look at the broad picture. You know, how many clients did I do? How many new clients did I get? And then reevaluate it every Sunday evening before the next week starts. Your monthly, you look at it, okay, how many highlights am I doing a month? How many lowlights? How many, perms, haircuts, whatever you're doing, how many of those am I doing? How much money did I bring in? Because your monthly evaluation, you can start doing it month to month and the year to year. That's going to be your biggest thing to say, well, this is my slow months, these are my busy months, these are months I didn't talk about this that often, or whatever the case may be. So the ritual, the formulation for success is the ritual, weekly and monthly. Okay? That is what we added. So morning, weekly, monthly. Okay, I want y'all to look at this, and y'all can see the slide up there right now. It's a very easy way to hold yourself accountable, and everybody's going to have a different list and a different way to hold yourself accountable. So how do we communicate change for education? Now this, after we've done all this, it's very important, because I think our industry's kind of left us behind. I think there's been a disconnect between manufacturers and hairstylists, because communicating change for education is kind of like we're part of a hair culture that's not changing as far as education goes. It's all the same stuff. We go in there, they show us how to do something, they want us to do it exactly the same way, and then we leave. Now, I don't know about you, but I came in the industry to do whatever I want to do. I went to a hands-on workshop, and they were saying, oh, you got to do it exactly like this. I don't have to do it like the way. I paid for the class. I bought the mannequin. I could shave that mannequin's head, and you can't say nothing to me. Let me be me. And that's how we move forward in the industry. But education right now isn't like that. It's like, how do you do things like me? Can you cut hair like me? No. Can I cut hair like you? No, we can't. So what's the reason we haven't changed? You know, manufacturers just have disconnected from the stylists because they're not behind a chair all the time. You know, the normal cutting class, a normal color class. You know, what are we doing different from one another? I just don't get it. So we are starting, V-Ski Professionals, starting a postmodern education. And what we mean by that is where you are learning every time you come to the class. We teach all ages and all temperaments. We teach to create your own you. So how cool would it be for you to come to a hands-on cutting class where I teach you how to create your own haircut? It's never been done. The manufacturers want this control. I don't care about that. I want you to have freedom and creativity. So you're going to come in, we're going to do a haircut, and then we're going to teach you some techniques and a different way of thinking and a whole different cutting system. Then you're going to take that haircut and make it do something it was not designed to do. So if it's a layered bob, it's still going to be a layered bob, but it's not going to look the same before you do our cutting system. That is where you come back. You can come back 100 times and get a different haircut every time you come back. But the best thing and the beautiful thing about it is that you created the haircut. Not me, not Chris, not April, not Jen, not VSkey Professional. We just gave you some ideas, creative ideas, and then you grab a hold of some of them, you own them, and then you create whatever you want with them. That gets me excited. And I'm so excited to be looking out for some of these classes because we're going to do them all over North America next year. So you have to be able to create yourself. Now, in order to create yourself, you have to wake up and fully be engaged in your life. Have a clear vision and enjoy the journey. Okay? Wake up. Fully wake up every morning. And that's what I mean, be prepared for what's getting ready to happen to you the next 10 hours. You know, be prepared mentally, be prepared physically. Know what you want to accomplish every day. That is so, so important because hairdressers, I want to explain one thing to you, that every day is decided on this. You have one chance, one choice, and one moment. This is your chance to make the right choice to create a new moment for the rest of your life. Every day you have those three options right there: chance, choice, moment. And I want you to make sure that you're aware, looking from the outside in, to acknowledge what those chances are. What choice am I going to make? And is this the right moment to make the change? I think that is vital for you. I hope you're getting some of this. I hope you're just not getting excited because I want you to go out tomorrow and do something brand new. Okay, so now what or who will you be tomorrow? Now let me ask you that. This is the deciding moment for the past couple hours or whatever we've been talking. What or who will you be tomorrow? You need to write that down. What do you want to be? Who do you want to be? And it could be, you could act like anybody until you own that, and then you make it your own. So like that guy that said, Chris, gotta tell some of your stories. He did that until he created his own stories, and then he started creating his new person. So he created his own, created his new. Now, the last thing that I wanna talk to y'all about is, I hope you got a lot out of the last hour, 2 hours you've been listening, but to hold yourself accountable is something most people will not do. To change is something most people will not do or hold themselves accountable to. But I want to leave you with this, and I hope you enjoy the journey. We want to keep journeying with you, and follow us on Facebook and jump on our website, Instagram, Twitter, all this fun stuff, because there, like I said earlier, there's no hairdressers here and here. We all share ideas and we all do it differently. But we can also help give each other different ideas to build on our vision and our pathway to a new roadmap. Your roadmap has been decided today. I hope you follow it, hold yourself accountable. If you have any questions, you call me. My cell phone number is 843-708-0397. It's Chris Vineski on Facebook. Private message me, whatever you want to do. But I want to journey with you, and so does my staff. And we're going to take you to levels that you never thought you could reach. But you got to start thinking differently. And whatever we've done in the past in the hair industry the last 20 years, forget about it. There is no new haircut out there except the ones that you're going to create. That's the exciting part of it. So I'm going to leave you with one last thing. Always remember to fall asleep with a dream and wake up with a purpose. So will you do that for me, hairdressers? Thank you for your time. I hope to see you soon. Have a great and amazing day.